Good morning, ladies and gents. How are you doing? I've had a Honda CB1000R for about a year and a half now. Absolutely love the crap out of the bike, but sadly, I've had a couple of problems. And unfortunately, getting those problems sorted has been anything but plain sailing. So grab yourself a cuppa, hang around a bit, and I'll tell you what's been going on.
You've been a bit poorly, have you, love? Should we get you to the doctors and get you sorted out?
And obviously, I've picked the absolute perfect day for it. Wonderful, wonderful weather, just starting to rain. Right then, cameras and things set up, and I just got absolutely screamed at in that supermarket there. Ah, tut mir leid, ich habe keine umgebracht. Some old dear taking immensurately disproportionate dislike to the fact that I took a wrong turn in the car park and went in the wrong direction. But anyway, yeah, here we are on my courtesy bike for the period of my fix. They're quite cool, actually. Honda CB500X. It's actually a bit bigger in the flesh than I thought it would be. Still, sadly, a bit too small for me, but yeah. I also tried to adjust the screen a minute ago in the same way that you do with the Africa Twin, where you just kind of grab it and pull it. And the thing comes completely off. Oh, I'm glad I didn't find that out when I was on the road. I mean, brilliant when you're on the tour. You whip it off, smash it on the luggage rack, get some wind on your chest. But, yeah, not so ideal while you're riding. Although, of course, it's to be expected by Honda, and in this price segment, no heated grips are standard, so I'm very happy to have the Kais G701 Shorty heated gloves with me for this trip. Thankfully, it looks like the rain stopped, although weather still isn't great. Anyway, let's get on with this ride. Expecting for the GoPro to be a dick about it, but luckily got the Insta360 Go 2 on the front there for a little bit of a secondary camera test. Yeah, not quite the same poke as the CB, but half the displacement, not really a surprise. Pretty smooth though. Anyway, this isn't a review about the Honda CB500X. Let's get on with my experience of owning a brand new Honda. So, as I said at the beginning, I've bought the Honda brand spanking new about a year and a half ago. Obviously deeply overjoyed having bought my very first ever brand new motorbike, and also obviously expecting a worry-free, super relaxing experience, because when you buy a new bike you get a new guarantee and all that kind of stuff, and obviously everybody knows that with Honda you can't possibly go wrong, can you? I've never been on this road before. This would be quite cool in the drive, although these tyres don't feel quite as sticky as my Avon Spirit STs do on the CB. But anyway, we're not here to go crazy. Yeah, so the first 6 months of ownership of the Honda, no problems whatsoever, as you would expect. Brand new bike, 0 miles. But before I get into that, let's go way back into the mist of time, which might partially explain why I've just ridden half an hour out of the city to get to the dealership that's fixing my bike. I went to my local Honda dealer in Hamburg, which is actually about a kilometre away from where I live, a while ago, shortly after the Africa Twin was released, because I really wanted to do a test ride. And I went in, said to the salesman, "Hello there, I'd like to do a test ride on a Honda Africa Twin, please." And he looked at me and went, "Nah, haven't got one." So with a startled look upon my face and a tone of bemusement in my voice, I turned around and looked at the one that was in the showroom and said, "Well, what about that one?" "Nah, showroom model, innit?" This was obviously all in German. I wasn't dealing with an East London salesman. So then I said to him, "Okay, when are you getting a test ride model in?" "Don't know, mate." "Again, okay. Maybe do you want to take my number and give me a call when it does? I'd love to do a test ride." And then I kid you not, his reply was, "Nah, we've got more customers than we've got product." And that was it. Like, "Well, thanks mate, guess I won't be buying one of them then." So then fast forward a few years when I was thinking of buying the CB1000R, and I went in again. Oddly enough, I think I spoke to the same guy. He was a bit more friendly this time, so I don't know, maybe he got told off for his curt tones. But I told him about how I'd found a bike that was being sold in a dealership down in the south of Germany, like way down in Bavaria, with 900 kilometers on the clock for just over €9,000. And maybe he could do something with the price of his bike so that I could keep things local. We could all be happy. His first reply was, "Nah, nothing I can do, list price is the price you pay." So then I suggested, well, how about, quick shifter, heated grips, that kind of stuff. Can you sweeten the deal a bit? So then he said, "Well, I can give you them without fitting." So he quickly got his calculator out and did a calculation, and it was good. His special offer was that he was going to give me the bike for 15 grand. So I smiled politely and left, called up the place in Bavaria, said, "I'll take that second-hand bike, please." To which they replied, "That one's already sold, but you can have a brand new one for just over 10. I think that was over 3 grand off list price, 5 grand cheaper than my local garage wanted to do it. So I tore his arm off. I said, "Yeah, send it to me immediately." And then that's the bike I've got. So all of that out of the way. So the first 6 months of ownership of the CB1000R, pretty smooth running, to be honest, as you'd expect. It's a Honda. Until the first problem was when I was in the garage that I was messing with something, and I dropped a plastic tool onto the petrol tank and chipped the paint. Could not believe it. I was mad at myself, but also mad at Honda for using cheese paint on the petrol tank. A plastic tool chipped through the clear coat, through the paint, through the primer, down to the metal. But yeah, shit happens. There's a chip on the tank. You learn your lesson. I put something over it when I'm working on things now. But the thing that really, really disappointed me was when I was doing something else. I think I was replacing the engine bars with something a bit smaller, and I noticed that there was a hole in the engine cover on the left-hand side, just a tiny little, like a bubble. And then on closer inspection, realised that there were lots of little holes, and obviously where all of these little holes were, the paint had fallen off, and it was starting to get a bit furry. So I cleaned everything up properly, had a proper look, and it looks like it's like little air bubbles in the actual casting of the engine casing. Upon further inspection, went on to realise that the paint on the oil sump and all up the front of the engine has all just worn off after 6 months of just riding on the road from road spray, rain. So naturally upset by this situation, I went straight to my local Honda dealer, the nearest one to me, the really, really friendly one, explained that the paint was coming off on a 6-month-old bike, and I'd done 6,000 kilometers at that point. So the bloke boshed the bike up on the ramp, got his torch out, had a look, and then, in his finest Hamburg German, said, "Ja, da ist sicherlich was gegengeflogen, mein Lieber." Basic translation, something's hit that, mate. Utter nonsense. It's sadly an attitude within the service industry that I've experienced far too much in Germany, particularly in northern Germany, that it's instantly the customer's fault. Immediately try and cover your ass and make sure you can give yourself a get out and put some blame onto the customer. So yeah, he said, "Stone chips, mate. That's what that is. Stuff's hit it." And I was gobsmacked. I even said to her that it would have to have been fired from the moon to make holes like that, mate. But he wasn't having it. So eventually, after a bit of back and forth, finally convinced him to take some pictures of it and send it off to Honda. But as he was doing that, he said to me, "Have you looked in your service manual at the terms and conditions? Because in there, it says that corrosion on painted parts is to be expected, especially on aluminium ones." So I was horrified by this, obviously on two levels. Firstly, that he felt the need to prepare me for the worst by basically telling me I had no right to complain. And secondly, that that's the stance that Honda takes. It's officially written in there in black and white. Corrosion on painted parts not covered by the warranty. Well, I was horrified. So basically, because of that, they're saying that they can paint the bike with cheese, and it's my fault when it comes off in the rain. This is a little bit of hearsay, but I then did a bit of deeper digging and then stumbled upon a Africa Twin forum where there were lots and lots of very unhappy Africa Twin owners with some awful paint stories, welds on the frame that looked like they'd been sneezed on by an ill toddler, paint shadows, spatter, overspray, weld spatter. The list goes on. It was pretty depressing. And then after closer inspection on my bike, I actually also found a couple of areas where I've got some bubbles of weld spatter that's just spaffed somewhere else on the frame. Instead of removing it, they've just painted over it because who cares? Very disappointed from Honda that that's the state of affairs and that's the situation with quality control lately. Oh, and I also almost forgot that when it came to the first service on the bike, because I bought the bike on Monday, it was delivered on Wednesday, I took it for a drink on Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday and Sunday, you get where I'm going with that joke. Anyway, yeah, the bike was delivered in the week. I did my 1,000 kilometers over the weekend and I wanted to have a service the next week as soon as humanly possible. So once again, I called up my local Honda dealership and he told me he could fit me in 2 months' time. And when I asked why it was so crazy, he just had a rant at me about how he was only one person and he can only do so much. Basically, the customers were overburdening him in his one and only job of servicing Honda bikes. So that's when I realised there was a dealership up north of Hamburg, because I've gone past it loads of times on the way to the only bendy roads in the whole area. I just stopped here for a quick GoPro battery change and noticed several things. First of all, the limit of the Go 2 battery is about half an hour, so I've had to bung that in the little chargy case. We're going to be without rear view for a little while. Secondly, got a crack in the screen protector of the GoPro, so that's annoying. Thirdly, in trying to find neutral, I've managed to find dash. So it's quite interesting. I wouldn't say reassuring to know that that happens on this bike as well as it does on my bike. I keep seeing this dash thing on the CB1000R as well because it seems like the gearbox is just a little bit indecisive. And fourthly, I've also realised despite this horrendous weather, I've been stood here for about 10 minutes faffing and there's bits of this Rucker Calavesi jacket, or Exegel wherever you are in the world, that are drying already. The fabric on this jacket is simply amazing. Anyway, on with the adventure. If I can find a gear. Yeah, so in light of this lack of vacancy for the first service, I called up the place that was outside of Hamburg, answered by the friendliest guy on the planet, and he said, well, yeah, well, tomorrow might be difficult, but I can fit you in the day after, anytime, all day long. So that was already quite a contrast, so that's where the service happened. But back to the paint issue. So the unfriendly dealership had taken pictures, sent them to Honda, and basically told me not to hold my breath. And then sure enough, after a 2-week wait, I got a phone call from that dealership basically saying, Honda says, no, tough poo, get on with your life, we're not fixing it. I mean, to say I was angry at that point would be a vast understatement. But as the mileage was already well over halfway to the second service, I thought, I'll leave it for now, I'll bring it up again when I take it to the second service back at the friendly dealership. And to the guy in Moto Fun in Kaltenkirchen's credit, his response was very different. He was gobsmacked that somebody would even suggest that that could be stone chips, considering it's on the side of the engine, way out of the path of the spray from the wheel, and the fact that there were so many, it's just not possible. He handled it a bit differently, didn't bring up anything about it being my fault. Once again, took a lot of pictures, sent them off to Honda, and at the same time I had a complaint that the gear lever was always hanging at the top after I'd done shift. Well, always is a bit strong, but was frequently hanging at the top after an upshift and then clicking down a bit later. I've actually got video that I can show you of that happening as well. So the pictures were once again on the way to Honda HQ, and they re-greased the shaft of my gear lever. Who doesn't like having their shaft re-greased? Although sadly the re-greasing of the shaft has not fixed the problem and it continued happening, so we'll see what happens today with regards to that because I brought it up again. But anyway, back to the narrative. Fast forward a month and I phoned up the garage and was told there was some kind of a problem with the guarantee attached to my bike, and I was required then to send proof of where I'd bought it and show my guarantee paperwork, because there were already 2 guarantee claims against my bike that had only been into the dealership for servicing. So apparently at that point I'd already had a new water pump and a new battery. I was gobsmacked. A company like Honda and this kind of shit was happening, that either somebody was fraudulently putting guarantee claims for a different bike onto the frame number of my bike, or just that there'd been a system cock-up of that magnitude. So I then had to basically leave it with him for him to try and talk to Honda HQ directly and sort out why on earth my bike was showing no guarantee status / somebody else had already been doing guarantee claims on it. Baffling and not very relaxing when you think you've smashed out so much money for a machine and an experience that you think is going to be completely painless and worry-free, and then suddenly you're getting told stuff like no guarantee, fraudulent claims, corrosion as expected. That shit did not sit well with me. Quite glad I've actually managed to find a bendy route again though. Also glad that they didn't give me the same bike as they did last time, because I got a 125cc scooter, a Honda Petunia or something. That would have made this ride somewhat less enjoyable. I've got knobbly tyres, let's definitely go the slippery, muddy way, shall we? Don't be gentle, it's a rental! So fast forward another 2 months of waiting for this situation to resolve itself, and I finally get a triumphant phone call from the Honda dealer saying that the engine side case has arrived and all I need to do is make an appointment and then it will be replaced. Jackpot! Well, within reason. They're going to replace the engine casing, but with the paint being stripped off of the engine and the oil sump, apparently that's still my problem. Cheers, guys. Right, little minion camera is back on the team. Incidentally, if you're wondering what this is the Insta360 vibration dampening mount. It's got squishy, spongy stuff in there, moves left, right, backwards, forwards, up and down. So interested to see how that does, because this camera does have a bit of jello from the engine, so keen to see if this little gadget fixes that. So yeah, it goes without saying that my experience so far has not been entirely joyful. I'm not really happy, and I think it would also play very, very strongly on my mind when it comes to considering ever buying a Honda again, but there we go. So now I just need to get back to the garage. Hopefully the bike should be finished by now. Pick it up with my brand new engine side cover, and also see, this will be an interesting test if he notices, that the last time I took the bike in for its service, the 10,000 kilometer service, he called me up and told me the front tyre was bald and it needed a new one. And if I wanted to, he could order me one. Now, I wouldn't ever buy tyres from a main dealership because you know for a fact the markup's going to be horrendous, but not wanting to miss out on any riding, I ordered one as quick as possible so that I wouldn't have any brake. And then when it came and I went to go and take the wheel off to change it, bloody tyre had 2.5mm of tread still on it. Unbelievable. Anyway, a little bit of bonus twisty-age and then we'll head back. Turn the old heated vest down a touch as well. Medium's a bit warm for today. Tell you what, the Kais stuff really has made today far more enjoyable than it would have been without. Heated stuff for the win. Oh, thank you, you gent. Thank you. Yeah, looks like you can do light northern German twisties on a CB500X. Pleasantly surprised. A little bit of rear end squirmage on the bends coming out though. That's the problem with 50/50 mixed tyres, isn't it? Shit on the road and there's shit in the dirt. Yeah, before I pick up the CB1000R, I'm pleased to say I'm quite pleasantly surprised by the curve carving capabilities of the CB500X. Honestly think I could happily take one of these touring actually. Probably miss the raw power, but capable it most certainly is. But enough of that. Let's go and get my CB back. Would you believe it? The gear lever just hung at the top like mine does. Maybe I'm the problem. Here we are, and there's my bike up the back there, hopefully with the new engine casing. Well then, looks like got the new cover on. Can't honestly say I'm all that chuffed with it though. This light grey sealant stuff they put in there and it's splurged all over the place with the old black sealant still in there. That's the level of work that you get from an official Honda garage. Is it? Look, the sealant splashed up there on the cables. It's around here, smeared on the front of the cover. So there we go. That is the end of that little saga. And sad to admit, and sorry to report, it was not a satisfying end. For a start, they've adjusted my gear lever so that it's not anywhere near where it was before. So now I'm going to have to go home and adjust that myself again. And also he said, yeah, the gear lever hanging at the top. It's not unusual. Maybe you're not changing properly. Maybe you're not lifting the lever all the way to the top. And then, yeah, with that engine cover, that looks absolutely now. So at some point I'm going to have to take that off myself, do a tidy job of putting the sealant on there in a sealant colour that kind of at least matches the colour of the engine. I mean, if this is what you get when you buy from an allegedly premium brand, I don't want it. I don't want it, I'm not interested. I honestly do think this whole experience has put a big black mark on the Honda name for me, and I don't think I will be buying a Honda ever again. So, sad conclusion, but something to bear in mind if you're thinking of buying a Honda. This is the experience I've had. Your mileage may vary. Thankfully, I do still very much like the bike. Enough that I'll be keeping it for the foreseeable future. But when it comes to partaking in Honda service offerings, I think I might be doing the next service myself.